Hello, you majestic stallions and stallionettes. Today we're going to be talking about everybody's favorite, psycho, inhumane, the seeker of all knowledge, and everybody's favorite daddy, Dotore. Now, this whole theory was inspired by the stallion himself, Al-Haytham. Thanks, babe. Also, quick note, I'm going to be talking about the manga tie-in with this theory at the end of the video, so please bear with me as I'm explaining everything, and just try to follow my thought process with everything. Appreciate it, everybody. So, in Al-Haytham's story quest, we get this beta cuck NPC guy who creates this whole network he calls the Hive. Now, it's complicated as heck, so we're gonna skim through some of the more minor details. But to put it simply, he mashes a bunch of people into a single consciousness known as the Collective. So, this might sound a little familiar, or at least feel a little similar to a little certain someone. However, there are two reasons why the beta cuck NPC's plans ended in failure. Reason number one obviously was because he was going up against the Giga Chad, Al-Haytham himself. But the second reason was because there was never really complete unity amongst the Hive itself, and all it really took was a single seed of doubt, which we saw Al-Haytham plant, to completely destroy the Hive from the inside out. Now, what if we take all of those people in the Hive and remove a single quality, their humanity? Or if you want to put it to an extent, their emotions themselves. So towards the end of the story quest, Al-Haytham straight up drops a little hint where he's not very subtle at all, but he mentions that the best way for this idea that the beta cuck NPC guy created, which was the Hive, the best way for it to be successful was for there to be no humanity whatsoever, and for everyone who isn't the Overmind to be seen as simply tools. So what if we take Sumeru's most brilliant mind and his vast knowledge of life forms and use that to make clones or segments? Then what if we remove the humanity of all said segments and form a collective? Well, on paper, it's kind of perfect. Obviously, this is just a cracked out theory, but if that's what my man Dotore did, it would explain his lack of giving a rat's poop about literally anything except for science. Now, for the second, slightly more complicated part of the theory, yes, there's a part two, it has to do with the weird, somehow cool looking mask that Le Doctor always seems to have on. So when we see all the NPCs in the collective, all of the people who are a part of it have these funky looking VR headsets on, which kind of act as a form of link. With this in mind, shouldn't the madman himself, Dotore, also have a VR headset on? Well, what if he does? But what if it's just under the mask? And here's the thing, I don't think it's gonna be quite the same. So, Dotore seems to always know the whereabouts of all of his segments at all times. Theoretically, this doesn't really make much sense, but here's the kicker. What if Dotore has that VR headset under his mask, yes, but what if it's permanently connected to his head? Or to be very specific, his brain itself. This might also be the technology he uses to connect brainwaves with all of the other clones. This is also not to mention the fact that Dotore himself probably got rid of his humanity, which is directly correlated to a part of the brain, which again is pretty similar to emotions themselves. Now, I know this is pretty cracked out, yes, but this would also explain how he just managed to off all of his clones at once, because it might be directly correlated to the machine under the mask itself, and it also further backs up at how he only sees all the other clones as tools. Now, I'm sure the manga readers in the room have noticed something very important which contradicts the entire theory, is that the Dotore in the manga very clearly has eyes. Now, here's my theory in regards to that. First of all, I believe the Dotore from the manga is a segment. I believe it's a younger version of the Overmind, the original Dotore. So here's a bit of a twist. I believe the Overmind, the main body Dotore, has the VR headset permanently etched into his brain, but all of the other segments don't. Now, the reason why they don't is because this might further increase the control the Overmind himself, Dotore, the original, has over the rest, because that would make it so that the clones can't erase the original, but the Overmind, the original Dotore, can. Now, there's also one quick other little thing that you might have noticed, is that the Dotore in the manga does seem to possess some emotions. Now, he definitely doesn't seem humane. I'm sure everyone can agree with that, but he very clearly shows signs of anger and frustration. So what if the events from the manga are what led to Dotore doing more research into erasing his segment's emotions? Because the manga currently isn't finished, so we don't know everything, but it seems like Dotore is making a lot of miscalculations in the manga. So what if the original Overmind saw this as an issue correlated to the emotions of the clone and decided to remove them? Now again, this entire spiel is just one big theory. It's cracked as hell. The reason why I call it cracked is because I thought of this theory while I was intoxicated as heck, which I'm sure might explain a couple of things to some people. But hey, even if you don't agree with it, even if you think I'm out to lunch, I hope you enjoyed this little spiel, and I hope we can have a nice, polite, and civilized discussion in the comments section. So with that in mind, guys, take care and have a good one.
Thanks for watching. Please sub. Bye.